This is the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, a show for high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we will inform and educate you about how to improve your self-awareness while developing systems, routines, and habits for conquering the entrepreneurial world. Here is your host, André Brisson.
Hey there. This week I was talking with Dan Hallman, and we were talking about accountability and forgiveness and the relation of being on a spectrum. I really like this conversation or the concept because it really got me going, and get me going. It was just made me thinking a lot more, and I just got a few more thoughts about this. So in quick summary, he's had a lot of conversations with different people about this, and this has everything to do with finding a resolution involving relationship conflicts. Okay, that's what the context of this spectrum is. So accountability on the one end, forgiveness on the other. So how are you going to keep someone accountable? How much are you going to keep someone accountable versus forgiving them? Okay, his point is it's not black or white thinking here. There's a spectrum. There's a varying degree in order for you to find a resolution, because you want to, like if you don't want to find a resolution with this relationship, you don't care the relationship going away, then it doesn't matter. I don't think you're going to necessarily want to keep them accountable if you don't care about them or about the relationship, or really forgive them. You just let it go and walk away. But if you care to come about this relationship and you want to come up to a resolution, I think a lot of his point is, we got to meet, not necessarily meet in the middle, but we got to meet somewhere along that spectrum. So to resolve, you have to hold someone accountable to a certain extent and then forgive, or how much accountability is required for forgiveness, or for you to forgive, how much accountability is required for as well. So if you think about that, so let's go to the extreme, black and white thinking. If we're going to, the forgiveness side, complete. You forgive all the time, doesn't matter what occurs, even if they slighted you and they're in the wrong. That puts you in being a pushover, and you give in all the time. And that's not really good for your mental health. You can't take the heat for everything. It takes two to tangle, I agree. There's responsibility on both sides of the table in a conflict. Even if it's someone unnecessarily provokes you, but if you engage in that conflict, you've made a decision to maintain. It takes two to fight, as I tell my kids. One to start it, one to continue it. So we can turn around and walk away, but if we want to come to a resolution, being a pushover or giving all the time and forgive automatically takes a mental toll on you, and we got to be careful of that. Now, I'm not saying forgiveness is not required. It is. But at the same time, there's got to be some sort of accountability on the other side too as well. I think that's a fair statement. Now, if we're going to the extreme of accountability, then that means you're going to be very headstrong, demanding, and there's only one way to look at things. And that can create a lot of resentment on the other person if you're demanding them to be accountable for everything, or they need to feel accountable or be accountable all the time. You can create a lot of resentment with that extreme focus on the accountability. So even that can create some mental health issue, can create some narcissistic tendencies, affects a lot of your relations. Now, no one wants to be around you, right? But at the same time, if you're extreme accountable to the other person, that means you're not at fault. You're not taking a look at yourself, that you can have some responsibility. Therefore, you're telling the other person is all wrong, and you're demanding them to be accountable and for you to forgive them. So that's a high. So that I'm talking about the extreme. So I do think that there is a level of, depending on the situation, depending on the context, that there's some relatable amount of accountability the other person has to take in order for you to forgive. It also depends on the situation, or like what Dan was saying, if it's a relationship you really care about, maybe you're more towards leaning to forgiving quicker, but with some accountability. But again, I think if you forgive automatically all the time and make excuses for the person, and they're not taking accountability to that misbehavior towards you, that's not the intent. And that's what we kind of call the pushover. And then you got people stomping all over you. And at the same time, you got the people who never do anything wrong. Everyone else has to be accountable, not me. Not fun to be around, and causes other types of issues. And the one thing I did like talking with Dan about this is we touched about how self-accountability is very hard. And that's on both sides of that spectrum. Okay. The self-accountability, if you want to hold someone accountable and you want to take it takes a percentage of that, be somewhat accountable to the scenario, you have to look at yourself and say, hey, I did something wrong, or I potentially did something wrong, and what did I do? And keeping yourself accountable rather than pushing it on someone else. A lot of our natural brain reactions is to protect us, which means something happens to us, we're going to automatically find someone to blame. That's an automatic brain reaction. We got to catch yourself. Whoa, all right, I blame you for doing this, but let's stop now and let's think about it. What happened? What occurred? Oh, you know what? Maybe I did piss you off. Maybe I did do something. All right, but your reaction might have been overblown and hurt me. So if you can own up to that, I'll forgive you. So do they do it quickly? Good. Not a lot. We're at a good end here. Or how long are you going to make sure that they see your point and make sure that they take accountability for that before you forgive them? So I don't know. I think I'm rambling a little bit here, but I think in the end, something I think we should all keep thinking about and observe as we're talking about when we get slighted. But again, it's all about relationship conflict resolution. And the one thing I really want, the main reason I'm talking to you on this short is when he said, I think he didn't realize what he said, but I really picked up on this, is that this spectrum is not only for external relationships with other people, also has to do with internal relationships, the relationship you have with yourself. When he said that, I'm like, oh crap. I never give myself a break. I demand myself to be accountable and everything, and I don't forgive myself because of that, because I don't let it go that I made a mistake. I don't want to let it go, or just because I think a lot of the past trauma and just like, dude, like you should have known, dumb. You know, always saying there's no one that can make me feel worse than I make myself feel worse because of the way I talk to myself. Now, that was me talking about 5 years ago. I'm getting better with this spectrum without realizing it was a spectrum. I'm still hard on myself, but I'm starting to forgive myself more. Shit happens, mistakes make. Even though all my greatest mistakes and were my biggest obstacles to overcome to create success, I still shit on myself to say that I sucked at getting to that mistake first, even though I learned a lot and made more money because of it. So what I want you to take away from today is I need you to look at this accountability and forgiveness spectrum for you. You need to forgive yourself a lot more than you are and stop holding yourself accountable to the point that you don't like yourself. Think about that. We are our worst enemy based on our past and past experiences. I completely understand how we were not nice to each other based on the external factors telling us that we suck and we don't know what we're doing. We know differently now. We are aware of our ADHD brain. We are aware of our natural talents and instincts and strengths. We know where our value is to people. Don't hold yourself so much to the fire to keep yourself accountable to making mistakes. Forgive yourself, move on. Because remember, your mistakes is your greatest learning and your greatest opportunity to make money down the road. If it wasn't for mistakes, I wouldn't be where I am here today because I learned from them how to avoid them next time. So in a way, I moved on. I should have forgave myself because I hold a lot of resentment with me for screwing up, but it was still, I knew it was the best way to move forward and I make more money. But now I'm actually forgiving myself more for making those mistakes. Well, before I held on to it to keep myself accountable and I was starting to resent myself. So this is what really hit me about this conversation. The internal dialogue we have ourselves, accountability, forgiveness spectrum. Please try and slide it down towards the forgiveness side and not be on the extremes. Now, if you're the type that you're just, you stop and you forgive everyone No, I guess we're talking external now. Let's try and slide that back. Advocate for yourself. Be assertive to get the respect that you deserve, because you are who you are and you are where you are because of you. And there's a respect there, and there's respect that's you've earned that you should be shown. So just be a little more assertive to get that respect and hold some people accountable. Start small. I know it's not, I'm not saying go right to the, go in people's faces or not, but it's got to be started with small steps. So this concept, I'm really interested in what you're thinking about. You can post in LinkedIn and name me, or email me at André at tacticalbts.com. I'd like to hear more about what you think about this. So thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. The ADHD transformation program has launched, and it's working. Clients are saying it's changed their lives, and I am their ADHD hack. So go to tacticalbts.com/ATJP for more information. I want you to join and learn your own ADHD vocabulary, and to learn that you're not stupid and we can make you work effectively.
Thank you for listening to the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for the show, please visit theimpulsivethinker.com. The Impulsive Thinker podcast is produced by Tactical Breakthroughs and hosted by André Brisson. Remember, ADHD is only a part of you, not all of you.